Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with a review of the beautiful Huawei Nova 9. It was launched in Europe last week and now it's time for a full review after having spent 1 week and a half with it. So this year Huawei hasn't launched any phones in Europe except for this model, the Nova 9. It comes with a powerful main 50 megapixel camera, at the same time a slim and compact design, a beautiful backside and an OLED screen it can be proud of, particularly for gaming and also watching videos. The price is around $500 and the CPU inside is a 4G version of a quite powerful chip which you've seen on quite a few mid-range phones lately. Now let's see what the device is all about and if Huawei still matters nowadays even after the restrictions they got from the US market. By the way, unlike what we said in the unboxing, this is actually an Android device with EmotionUI 12.0 on top, not Harmony OS. Okay, so let's get things going. Now design-wise, we have a glass at the front, glass panel with curves on the sides, not as sloped as those from the Huawei Mate 30 Pro or Mate 40 Pro. At the same time, we have glass at the back side, also gently curved in a symmetrical way, and having a 3D pattern here for this logo, which only slightly protrudes. This is a gradient that goes from purple to blue. It's glass as well, and the main camera doesn't protrude very much, and it has this sort of trademark ring around the main camera, and this, I would say, figure eight shaped camera arrangement, which is a bit similar to the Huawei P50 and Honor 50 series. Now, aside from the glass here and the front, we have a plastic frame, which is quite beautifully crafted. As you can see in the area of the buttons, it slightly slopes up to host them. These are slim buttons but quite responsive ones. You can see here the red accent, which reminds me of the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, and the volume buttons are quite comfy as well. This handset is a bit long and I would say quite narrow, not very easy to wield with a single hand because of its length. Your big finger will not be able to reach all of the areas of the screen, but that's not a major problem. It's quite grippy, I'll give it that much. It can sit in the hand quite fine. 7.77 millimeters in thickness, 175 grams in weight. I would say that these are decent measurements for the 6.57 inch screen on board. Speaking of which, when we're talking about this panel, the first thing that we mention is the fact that it's a 6.57 inch OLED screen with a Full HD Plus resolution, and it shows 1 billion colors. It has HDR10 support and also 120 Hz refresh rate, as confirmed by what you're able to see here. Screen refresh rate, it can be set to 120 Hz, 60 Hz or dynamic, adapting properly. At the top side you can see the punch hole for the selfie camera. It's quite big compared to nowadays standards. The screen bezels are pretty small, I have to say that. And from the factory we have already applied a plastic screen protection to protect the screen from scratches. Now when it comes to the video experience, it goes something like this. Okay, so what we're dealing with here is a very vividly colored panel. Quite satisfying experience in immersiveness, even though the punch hole of the selfie camera may pull you out of the immersiveness. It's a crisp and bright screen panel with wide view angles and also solid contrast and deep blacks, so definitely movies will be enjoyed on it and games as well, particularly on account of the, as you probably know, high refresh rate. Okay, now aside from that, we also have some measurements regarding the screen and tests. First of all, before we get to the brightness, there was an interesting occurrence here. We put the screen under the microscope and found the pixel arrangement to be RGB stripes, but not the typical kind. It has two green pixels following a blue one and a red one, which is a setup that Chinese company BOE uses, so it's most likely a BOE panel. Now the brightness measured by us is 556 lux units, which is quite solid. It even surpasses the likes of Galaxy S21 Ultra, also OnePlus Nord 2 and Galaxy S20 Fan Edition 5G. It stays below the Motorola Edge 20 and the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G. Now you saw a part of the settings before, and now we can go here and show you some more. We have the dark mode, we have the eye comfort, we have the ebook mode, text size and weight, display size, which can be set up from here. And we also have sleep and color mode and temperature. Those can be set to normal or vivid for the color mode, and the color temperature can be warmer or cooler, but you also have a palette for it. Screen resolution can be smart, Full HD or HD+, and the refresh rate is dynamic 120 or 60 Hz. That's pretty much it. It's an excellent screen that we have here. Now we go inside the phone and see what we're getting CPU-wise. Is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 778 6nm octa-core CPU, but in a 4G version. You probably know the 5G version, which was present on the Galaxy A52s 5G, Motorola Edge 20, and the Xiaomi 11 Lite 5G NE. In the current case, it's accompanied by 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage. No microSD, just so you know, and also no trace of lag. This is a particularly fluid and snappy implementation of Android, I have to say that. And aside from the gaming aspect, which is also fine and lag-free, day-to-day use and updates and everything is pretty well set up as far as eMotion UI 12 is concerned. So definitely no lag. Now, if you go further here and it's time to check out the benchmarks, I'm going to start off with Antutu 8. Now, here in Antutu 8, we're just above the Huawei P40 Pro Plus, which is a pretty big achievement. We surpassed the Galaxy A52 5G and the Oppo Reno 6 5G. We stayed below the Motorola Edge 20, Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G, and the Poco X3 Pro. Now we go further and see Geekbench 5 in the multi-core subtest. We're just above the Motorola Moto G100, surpassing the Asus Zenfone 8, which is quite a big feature, seeing how it's a flagship of 2021, but we stayed below the Xiaomi Mi 11T, Galaxy S20 Fan Edition, and the Poco F3. Gamers will be wondering about the 3D Mark Slingshot Extreme ES 3.1, and here we go, just above the Realme GT Master Edition, which is a bit of a gaming phone, also beating the iPhone 11 and the Xperia Mark 1. We're below the Motorola Edge 20, the Oppo Reno 6 Pro 5G, and the Poco X3 Pro, so there aren't record-breaking results here, but they're in keeping with what other devices with similar CPUs have been achieving. What's for sure is that you can definitely beat the past year flagships, those from 2020, and even some from this year. When it comes to the temperature, we also have those kind of tests, so you go here and we select benchmark temperatures, and they're decent at 37.5 degrees, no overheating. In games, the device gets a bit hotter on account of probably being so slim and not having enough room for proper cooling. Well, in games, 41.2 degrees Celsius. Now, when it comes to the battery, this handset uses a 4300 lithium polymer unit, which offers an excellent 66 watt charging, which was inaugurated last year by the Huawei Mate 40 Pro. On paper, you're supposed to juice up the phone up to 100% in 38 minutes. And the video playback time isn't half bad. As you can see here, 16 hours and 36 minutes. This means it's better than the Galaxy S21, Motorola Edge 20, and the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G. It's still at the same time below the Motorola Edge 20 Lite, the Xiaomi 11 Lite 5G NE, and the Oppo Reno 6 Pro 5G. A more relevant test is the PC Mark, continuous usage, and here we are with 12 hours and 10 minutes, actually not bad. It's basically 1 day and a change, a couple of percent for the next day to do your work. It's above Oppo Reno 6 Pro 5G, even Galaxy S21 Ultra and the Realme GT 5G. It stays below the Oppo Reno 6 5G and the Redmi Note 10 Pro, as well as the Xiaomi Mi 11 Lite 5G. Now let's see if that 38 minutes promise delivers. It's actually 42 minutes. That's how long it takes to bring the device from 0 to 100% battery. However, after just 15 minutes of charge, you're at 49%, which is not bad, and after 30 minutes, you're at 85%. The phone also offers a power bank feature, so if you connect an USB-C cable here to another device like a pair of headphones or maybe a phone, you can juice it up like a power bank. We don't have wireless charging, sadly. Now, speaking of things we don't have, there is no audio jack here, as you can well see, and for music we just have the singular speaker at the bottom here. There is no stereo package, and if you go to the sound department, you can only activate the Hisense sound effects if you have connected a pair of headphones. There are several profiles to activate, and generally even a wireless headphone would work. And now let's listen to some music. Okay, so a bunch of conclusions regarding the acoustic experience. I would say that the bottom speaker delivers a pretty high volume, but the sound was, I would say, rather flat. Not much bass, but the voices and high notes were particularly well represented. So if you're aiming for voices, the dialogue in movies will be spot on, podcast will be fine, so the voice is nice. There's plenty of volume, but not much bass. There's a lot of vibration going through this slim body. And well, we also have some tests here, some measurements. We start with an acoustic sample test, as we do usually, 88.2 decibels, which means we surpassed the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra and Xiaomi 11 Lite 5G, as well as the Galaxy S21 Ultra, but we stayed below the Moto G50 and Realme 8, as well as the Huawei P40 Lite 5G. In gaming, we got up to 100.1 decibels, which means it's superior to the Realme GT, Xiaomi 11T and Vivo X60 Pro. It's below OnePlus Nord 2 5G and the Moto G100. Okay, that's it speaker-wise. Now we get to the camera. This one here is a punch hole and it hides a 32 megapixel shooter which shoots 4K video. Also has HDR. At the backside, the quad camera with the main star of the show being the 50 megapixel sensor. Sony with red, yellow, blue pixel arrangement, f1.9 aperture, and rumors say it's the same sensor from the Huawei Mate 40 Pro apparently. Below it we find the 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, 2 megapixel bokeh camera and 2 megapixel macro camera. We also have the LED flash here, and this whole setup films in 4K at 30 frames per second and also does 960 frames per second videos, slow motion ones. The camera interface looks like this, familiar if you've seen Emotion UI before. We have a vlog section here which combines cameras, rear plus rear, ultra wide and main at the same time, front and rear, split screen mode, and picture in picture for the front and rear at the same time. We have portrait mode, we have a night mode, and going further we have more section with panorama, moving picture, super macro, slow-mo, time-lapse documents, story creator, pro, high resolution stickers and aperture. And in the video department you can also do background blur ever since 2018 from the Huawei Mate 20 Pro, but few people knew that. Now we go here to show you the gallery of shots we've taken. We have quite a few of them, so let's start. First of all, we're going to talk about the daytime photos and see what we got here. Okay, so the first pair of photos were a bit underwhelming, where we tried to focus properly on these close-ups of flowers, but then we got the hang of it and we achieved some pretty solid hues. The color hues were spot on, the dynamic range is quite generous, and the selfies are fine, especially in details. This is actually 32 megapixel shooting that we're getting here. The pixels aren't combined. The main 50 megapixel camera combines 4 pixels in one for 12 megapixel shots. Pretty good texture of the face, a lot of details. You can definitely see the pores, and the skin color is spot on, as well as the focusing on the face. Okay, we go further here. We attempted to achieve some macros. Now they may look impressive on the small screen, but at 2 megapixels, a monitor or a TV will definitely not do them justice. There will be a lot of noise. I would say stick to the close-ups, go a bit further, like 8 centimeters, and achieve decent close-ups at 50 megapixels or 12 megapixels. There's a bit of noise here, as you can see, but the colors were pretty much always spot on. This is not one of those camera setups which achieves overexposure on a sunny day, so that's nice. It was a sunny day, and we're lacking a telephoto camera, so definitely the zoom is modest. However, at 2 or 3x, you should be happy with the results. This is a regular shot, and this is the ultra wide shot. As you can see, not much color deformation here. All the colors are kept pretty much the same, and the sky looks pretty realistic. It's not deformed. This is 2x zoom, and if you go further than 3x or 5x, a lot of noise will definitely appear. A regular shot again, lovely texture here for the rock this bridge is made of, and this is the ultra wide, which is actually not bad. I see some noise on the sides, but I don't see that curvature that ultra wide cameras sometimes have. Finally, some colors, and I have to say I'm loving the blue hue that this camera captures. And once again, we're playing with the ultra wide, and then the zoom, which produces good results at 2 or 3x. Okay, even more colorful shots. I'm loving the vegetation here. Most phones would have overexposed this section, even Galaxy S20 and S20 Plus last year, so definitely something to look into. Lovely sky, another thing that produces problems for some phones out there, not this one. It delivers properly, and let's see if we can go further. more colors here, the fall colors, the autumn colors, and excellent texture. Once again, stick to the main camera if you're doing close-ups. The macro may not be satisfying. So for example, we have this one here, which is an excellent close-up, and this one is a macro, but it's just 2 megapixels, and on a bigger screen it may be disappointing. The texture and color calibration here reminded me of 3 phones: Oppo Reno 6 Pro, Vivo X60 Pro, and the Motorola Edge 20, all of them comparable with the current phone. If not, this one is maybe better because it doesn't suffer from overexposure and has a pretty generous dynamic range. Okay, so that's about it for the daytime photos, and even more selfies here. We also applied a bunch of filters to make things a bit more appealing for Instagram. And I have to say, pretty good focusing and separation of the planes, the main plane with the subject and the background plane with the scenery behind me. And we also have some of those black and white shots which look professional, and the cutout with the bokeh which never misses a beat or a thread of hair from its place. Pretty impressed by the results, thumbs up from us, and it definitely fights other phones in the $500 to $600 segment. Okay, these have been the daytime shots. Let's see the nighttime ones. Okay, so about the low light shots, we have them here. I have to say that the main camera draws in quite a large quantity of light, but at the same time the ultra wide camera is a bit of a letdown, making the lights too big and the image too soft and noisy. One thing I noticed here is that when it comes to the focus, the device is spot on even during the night time. Now, the clarity was always fine. We always had a pretty large quantity of light. I wasn't tempted very often to use the night mode, so that's a big plus. There are also no weird hues here, no weird orange or purple and anything like that. So if you're aiming for a touristic phone, if you want to take shots during the night while traveling to another city, it's, I would say, good enough for that purpose. And if you keep the zoom or 2 or 3x, you should be satisfied with the result. Okay, so now several more captures here. I honestly can't tell which one is the one with the night mode activated, but I'm definitely happy with the colors captured in these frames. Several more monuments here. It's a quite honest camera. What you see is what you get. What you're perceiving with your eyes, you're also getting on your TV or monitor screen afterwards when you're watching the shots. And we have even more samples here, quite a few of them actually, also taken during the nighttime. The level of yellow is kept to a decent rate. It's not overblown or changed in any fashion. And even more captures here. Okay, that's pretty much it photo-wise. I would say that for a high mid-range phone, it's doing its job quite fine. And I should probably also go ahead and check out the videos. I'm going to actually use the Huawei Video app, which also includes content from Huawei. And let's see those clips. So we have quite a few of them here. And I'm going to focus on the most important one. I've been calling this a vlogging phone, so this is pretty important because the previous Nova I've tested, the Nova 5T, was a bit of a landmark when it came to selfie camera shooting. Once again, this phone shoots 4K selfie videos, and it does so with an admirable focus and detail and colors. And the stabilization isn't half bad, so once again, the Nova series is excellent when it comes to, well, vlogging. A close-up video here with an impressive amount of detail, sturdy focus, and lovely colors and texture of the bee in action, in work. If you want to check out the stabilization, we also have a video in motion, this one here. We're walking around. And it's actually not bad, I know. We don't have optical image stabilization. And yes, we do have the sun in front of us on the left. Could be a handicap, but it's actually not. Pretty solid electronic stabilization. And one thing I was surprised of is the fact that in spite of filming so much green stuff, so much vegetation, the phone doesn't suffer from overexposure, so it's not overly green, so to say, which is quite fine by me. Okay, let's see what else we have here. We also have some tests which involve the focus, which is pretty spot on, alternating between the leaves and the background. And we also have this video here, which does another test for the stabilization. And delivers excellent results. Now, this is actually the focus test, focusing on an object in the foreground and on one in the background in a pretty fast and accurate manner. I would have to say that this filming makes this one of the top 5 high mid-range camera phones of 2021, which is no small feat. Especially the main camera impresses us. When it comes to the low light capture, it goes like this. This is an area where the phone shows its obvious limitations, like we've said as well on other phones out there, including the Xiaomi 11T series and the Motorola Edge 20. It's somewhere in there with them. There's a lot of blue hues here on the top side and purple on the bottom sides. Quite a bit of noise. Stabilization is decent, but still the image isn't crisp enough to pass a flagship test. However, for a mid-range is, I would say, as expected, showing some limitations. Now that we're done with the camera, and I'm pretty impressed by the main shooter here, I have to say that it's time to address the connectivity with some good news. Now, obviously, we have 4G dual nano SIM slots, Wi-Fi 6, but at the same time, we also have NFC, and you can actually use it to do some payments. With the Curve app, contactless payments are available. There's also Bluetooth 5.2, there's GPS, GLONASS, BDS and Galileo for global positioning, QZSS and Navic, and an USB-C 2.0 port at the bottom. There's no 5G connectivity here on account of the lack of components, on account of the whole US blacklist thing. And the calls were pretty loud and clear when we did them. We also did a bunch of speed tests, which we have in the dedicated app here. And I'm happy to say that the Wi-Fi 6 speed is fine, 607 megapers downloads and 666 megapers uploads. For 4G, it's 263 in download megapers over 66.9 megapers. So I would say we're doing fine in this field, particularly in the Wi-Fi area. Now, obviously, it's time to address the software, and I have to start with a mea culpa. In the unboxing, we said this is Harmony OS 2.0. Actually, it's not. It's Android 11 with Emotion UI 12 on top. It's an honest mistake because they look alike. They can actually be confused easily. So let's get straight to it. Obviously, we don't have Google services and we don't have a Play Store, but we do have the Huawei App Gallery, which has tens of thousands of apps, including Bolt and Bolt Food if you want ride sharing and want to order food. There's Telegram for social networking. There's FlashScore if you want to learn more about, the games you're following. There are 18 categories here. And if this is not enough for you, you can use the Petal search that Huawei provides to find extra apps from third-party sources, including games. The same Petal search provides you with news, images, videos, hotels, basically a replacement for Google search. It also has this section with, I would say, widgets, shopping, and your very own account area and incognito mode. If you do want to use Google services, I mean some of those Google apps, for example, you can go ahead and rely on the email app. It's just called Email. And I have integrated here my Gmail account with ease, with zero problems. Now, aside from that, the experience is pretty straightforward. To the leftmost, we have an aggregator of widgets, shortcuts, news, and a lot of services here, which is quite useful. The weather as well. If you swipe to the bottom from the right, you can trigger the control panel, which includes those big bubbles, which let you access the core features of the phone, from Huawei Share to location, wireless projection, screen recorder, dark mode, and more. Now here we have something interesting. It's called Device Plus. It makes your phone a hub that connects to your Huawei laptop, your Huawei tablet, your Huawei TV set, Huawei headphones, and Huawei speaker. You're getting the idea. It's the core of an ecosystem and has a dedicated setting here. It's called Device Plus, and as you can see, it's an orbit of devices gravitating around one common unit. And this interconnectivity also manifests with the multi-screen collab. You can sync this phone up with a tablet and its keyboard. You can touch a special key. You can have those two work together via mirroring. It also applies to a Huawei MateBook laptop. Now, aside from that, we're using gestures here to navigate around. So if you trigger the recents area, you're going to do some multitasking. You also have split screen available, and floating windows are also part of the experience, as you can see here. You can move the window around or close it like that. Now, if you swipe from the right, you saw what happened. If you swipe from the left, you're going to have your notifications. So there's that. And aside from this, if you pinch the screen, you're going to see the wallpapers, widgets, transition, and home screen settings. These are the widgets. They haven't changed much over the past years. Still minimalistic and still not many of them. and actually not very far from what people would call a stock-like experience. Obviously, we have all the apps on the home screens, but you can opt for an app drawer that's also available as an option. Speaking of options, settings, and so forth, you can go here. These are the connectivity options. This is the home screen and wallpaper area. You can do some customization, and you can opt here for the app drawer I mentioned before. There's also the always-on display to customize. We also have sound and vibration, notifications, biometrics, and password. By the way, I'm relying right now on the face unlock, but there's also a fingerprint scanner here, and it's quite snappy and fast, so when it comes to security, you're all set. Privacy is also here with a permission manager, which lets you choose which apps have access to these important features of the phone. You can also create a private space to shelter special files for work or personal life. Digital Well Balance is basically an alternative to digital well-being. It helps you control the digital addiction. Huawei Assistant, it's called Celia, and basically replaces Google Assistant, but it's in its infancy for now, and HMS Core is the replacement of Google Mobile Services, and it has been updated a few times so far. Now, as far as the pre-installed apps are concerned, you have proprietary solutions for books, music, and video from Huawei. You have here a game center, which I would say the best thing about it is that it offers special vouchers and in-game rewards as you play the games. Petal Maps is here to replace Google Maps, and one of the best things about it is that it knows the exact location of your building. Buildings are sometimes divided into different address codes. This one actually knows pretty accurate address codes. We also have a notepad. If you want to do some note taking here, you have a lot of options to play with. You can even handwrite. You saw the email app, and we also have Office here with your fill of Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Forms, and playing around with PDFs. We also have a weather app, a calculator, and a mirror, but the most useful app is this one, the Optimizer, which does some cleanup for your resources, scans for viruses, and also takes care of the battery. Pretty sure I forgot something here, but you get the idea. You can use Bolt for ride sharing, Cam Scanner as a replacement for a scanner, Petal Mail as another mail client. We have banking apps installed. We have WebEx for video calls and WPS Office for productivity. And I promised to show you, this is Curve. And you can do contactless payments with it. I actually added my own credit cards here, and you can order a special Curve card. It supports quite a few banks, and that's pretty much it. The solution to do NFC payments, contactless payments with this phone is available, and it actually works. I think we're pretty much done with the handset. If there's anything else, we're definitely going to be covering it in the text review. Now, it's time for the end of the review, and it's time for the verdict. I'm going to start with the pros and cons related to this handset, which you're seeing right here. Now, obviously, on the pro side, I would say it's a pretty looking phone, especially if you look at the back side with its gradient and glass build. It's also pretty solidly built, doesn't feel like it could give away in prolonged usage. The screen is excellent. I would say that it's one of the features which makes it resemble a flagship. I'm talking about the colors, the brightness, the solidity of the panel in general. It delivers. The screen delivers for sure. Now, aside from that, let's see what else we have here, and if we forgot anything. Also, on the pro side, we have a pretty solid performing CPU, which should be lag-free for at least 2 years. The battery offers a pretty good battery life for video watching and also general day-to-day use. The charging is fast. The speaker at the bottom has a pretty loud volume and nice rendering of the voice. And the main camera delivers detailed 4K videos, pretty good stabilization, a nice bokeh, and well-calibrated colors. The front camera, the selfie one, is excellent for vlogging when it comes to details, texture, and stabilization in selfie videos, and also pretty good videos in general. We also have fast Wi-Fi on this phone, Wi-Fi 6, and a pretty nice Emotion UI 12, which I actually got accustomed to faster than expected. Now, these are the pros. On the cons side, the device doesn't have IP certification, doesn't have wireless charging, there's no audio jack here. We're also lacking stereo speakers, there's no 5G, no Google Mobile Services, and the bottom speaker produces a flat sound. The zoom could have been a bit better. I could have done without maybe 2 of the cameras if you would have had a telephoto. but for digital zoom it's quite okay. The ultra wide cam doesn't impress during the nighttime for sure, and I felt the lack of a micro SD card slot and maybe 4K 60 frames per second video capture. In the end, this one feels like a handset for the aficionados of the brand. Huawei still has its fans, quite a few of them, around I don't know, I'm pretty sure that there's 500 million people already relying on App Gallery in the world, if not more. Anyway, Huawei still has its fans, and people are still asking me, after the review I've done for the Huawei Nova 5T, when is the next vlogging phone going to come along? Well, it's actually here, it's this one, and if you want to do vlogging on a budget which is less than the usual $800 and go to $500, this may just be the solution for you. Now, this is the core audience, youngsters on account of the design with a $500 budget, which desire a camera above average as the main shooter, close to a flagship, this 50 megapixel shooter, and are also ready for some compromises associated with the Huawei brand. I'm talking about the lack of Google services. Basically, people with an open mind to a different way of approaching Android. That's pretty much it from us, from gsno.com. Hope you enjoyed this review. And once again, this is Android 11 and eMotion UI 12, not Harmony OS. And I would say it's quite the experience. It went above my expectations in areas like charging, main camera, and the screen is the star of the show. Bye bye.